everybody. My name is Patrice Johnson. Welcome to the Great Reset podcast where insurance meets accountability. Today, I have Mr. Antoine Lee here to share his experience from going into the insurance industry into the real estate. With no further ado, please, Mr. Antoine Lee, introduce yourself.
Well, thank you for that warm introduction. My name is Antoine Lee, as she said, and I used to be in the insurance industry, and now I'm in the real estate industry. And I spent about 3 years as an active real estate agent, two of which was a life and health insurance agent, and one as a final expense agent. The first 2 years as a life and health insurance agent, I spent a great deal of time trying to convince clients to buy life and health insurance at the same time to invest their money. And then that 1 year as a final expense agent, I spent a great deal of time trying to convince elderly clients that they needed this final expense insurance to help them in their later years, or to help their loved ones after they passed on. And so it definitely was an experience, when I do not want to repeat. When I do not want to repeat. It was very challenging. I would say, at least. I would definitely say that a lot of the experience that I had was, of course, pushback, which everyone in sales experiences pushback. However, specifically speaking about final expense insurance, which is where you and I met, that was probably the most challenging, because you have a client that is not totally capable of making their own decisions. Now, it's hard enough to sell someone who can make their own decisions. And now you have to sell someone who may or may not be in the capacity to make their own decisions, and possibly have to sell their caretaker as well, which, for whatever ungodly reason, was never around. So until it was time to cancel the policy.
I actually ran into that the other day. I was doing a live transfer call, and I hit it off with this woman, and I told her, like, hey, so which one is it going to be? I hit her with that one liner that should be a yes or no, ma'am. And she's like, I really need to talk to my kids. And I was like, huh. And I was like, that's so great. And I was like, I have a question. I said, when the kids were little, I was like, when you made them dinner, I was just like, did you ever let them choose dinner, or did you make it? She goes, no, I made it. Otherwise, they would never know, if they needed their vegetables and stuff like that. I said, exactly. Why would you trust them with knowing if you need life insurance? You're the mom. Of course, I didn't sell it. But again, it goes back to my point about the challenges, right? And it's that trial and error. And it really does take a specific attitude to be in this business, just like, with anything, whether you're an actor, real estate, it takes a certain grit to be in those. So can you briefly share with me your experience? I know you touched on a little bit, but, what initially attracted you to come into the insurance industry?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say that was an awesome rebuttal. Loved it.
Thank you.
That's totally awesome.
You can use it.
Yes, I'm totally still in that, just so the world knows I'm still in it. But the one thing that attracted me most to the insurance industry, I was young, for starters, at the time. I'm not young anymore. I was young at the time, and of course, the money attracted me. The ability to be my own boss attracted me. The fact that I was in the finance, and this made great sense to have the insurance component while you're building your nest egg, building your fortune, your empire. And so those things attracted me to the business. But I soon found out real quickly that it's not as easy as people like to make it seem to be. You really have to know where your strengths are. And so as a young man, we feel like we're invincible. We can do anything, right? You told me I got to sell 100 people. I'm going to sell 100 people. I'm going to talk to 1,000. I'm going to be a millionaire. 2 years, it's going down. Like, no. That is not to say it can't happen. I mean, there are some rock stars, as you just witnessed. World, that was a rock star reply right off the dome. She knocked it out the park, and you really do have to be quick on your feet like that. So, unfortunately, that just wasn't me.
I feel like a lot of times, and we'll probably touch on this later, it comes down to the training, and a lot of my training isn't insurance training, it's improv training from acting.
Ah,
A little side note about Patrice, those court shows on Channel 2, your granny be watching, they're fake. I was on there. So
really?
yes, yes, I was in America's Court with Judge Brown, and that I had so much fun. I basically sued my cousin for not paying me for a tattoo we got together, and it was totally improv. We literally got together an hour before the show, and we kind of just made up a word bank of just some stuff, some history between us.
Right.
So we had that family dynamic, and then after that, it was just like we just went off like that. It was just like so a lot of that came from that training, but it's like that's the kind of my point about this industry, and we'll probably get into that. What your experience is, we're not having that kind of training. They're teaching you how to sell a product and not actually sell the product. And
Hmm.
talk to your client and actually find the need and what's going on, because you're spending so much
Hmm.
time just figuring out their budget. I'm like, great, out of this, we could take 50 bucks. We spend so much
Hmm.
time on the money part. Like I hear the videos all the time of all these new people who are so excited to be in the industry. And I'm like, yeah, I got to my family member. And I'm like, you just spent $50 at McDonald's. That could have been a policy. But
Right.
McDonald's makes me feel good.
Right. Exactly.
There's a need. I was hungry. I got fed. You're not
Right.
telling me, how insurance is important. And that's what I'm saying, that like that's where that gap is going. So, what made you decide to leave the industry? Was there any specific moment or experience that led to your decision?
Well, a couple of reasons I left the industry. I left the industry. In all honesty, I really didn't like sales, and I'll get to why I'm still in sales. But I really didn't like sales. The other part of it was that the insurance companies keep 100% of the the premiums. They keep 100% of the premiums, but they will claw back your entire commission if the policy is canceled within a certain period of time, be it 12 months, 24 months, or what have you. And one, for starters, I felt that's unfair. If I've done all the work to get you this money, I should be able to keep some of it. Now, I get it. If they didn't go full term or whatever, we don't keep all the money. I could probably live with that. But to lose the entire amount and you get to keep it all after I've done all of the work, absolutely not. And I feel like it's a bankrupt business model because if I'm going to always lose every time a client backs out, unbeknownst to me, or because someone else convinces them otherwise, or because they find they can get the policy cheaper somewhere else, then I'm constantly in a deficit, right? And
No,
so,
yeah,
from a finance and business perspective, the last thing you want is unexpected expenses, right? You definitely don't want to lose 100% of what you made yesterday, right? You can always shift, adjust if it's a small loss, but 100% of what you lost, what you made yesterday, it's just a bankrupt business model. You don't
yeah,
want to go into something like that. And I kind of started putting it together in my head once I got in it, and I realized that this was the case. And I kind of saw how some clients did cancel because they had dementia, and later on, a caretaker finds out they've got their 18th policy, and now they're canceling the policy for them or whatever. Or you just have someone who is totally unknowledgeable, wasn't on the call, does not understand the importance, does not see the value, and they cancel the policy. And so now I'm having to pick up the phone like, hey, what happened? Well, now they're not answering the phone, right?
yeah,
So it's kind of like you're always chasing yesterday's money at the same time you're still trying to get today's money for tomorrow. It's that's just way too much. And to be honest with you, and this kind of gets into my persona, which I'll probably address later on. Getting into my persona, I don't really like having to chase money to begin with.
yeah,
But to add on top of that, to chase the money I've already made, I don't like that. That's not something that fits me. Now, there are some people that love the grind and love the hard sell, and they just get a thrill out of it. By all means, that may be for you, but you really have to know your who you are as a person,
Yeah.
what you like and what you don't like. And I would say definitely for young entrepreneurs and men, we have a tendency to feel like we can take on the world in any capacity. Stop, do an evaluation, okay, and determine what you like and what you don't like. And if any of this sounds like something you don't want to do, then you may want to rethink why you're doing it.
And thank you so much for sharing that. Sometimes even people like me, they're still in the industry for some type of complex reason. For me, I should have got out when I had a chance, but I got greedy because I started to see all of what the possibility of this insurance industry could do because it was gatekeep. Because when I left one IMO, a whole surge of people left and they were looking for someone to align themselves with. And I happened to be one of those people that, hey, I had a few hundred people come my way. I was able to capture about 300 plus agents to my agency. And it's like all of a sudden I started to see what the possibilities of that. But in doing so, I let people through the gates that should have never stayed. I saw the red flags. And one of those persons cost me $25,000. So it's almost like everything I made, I am now paying back.
Mm-hmm.
And don't get me wrong, there are others outside of him who have rolled up debt, but just that one person, that's one person, $25,000. And I'm down to about 7 grand. So you can see what I'm saying, that some people may be in this business because they're trying to get out by reeling you in. You know
Yep.
what I'm saying? And I'm not
Yep.
trying to reel nobody in. I was a 50K producer, but I'm tired. I don't want to do it anymore. And you said
Yep.
something, and I wanted to bring that back up. You said a word, and it was very, very triggering because you put such an emphasis on it multiple times. You said convince, convince, convince. I'm tired of having to convince people based off of the resources that I had. It was no lack of what I was capable of doing because I know what I was capable of doing when I had the right resources and tools.
Yep.
But you can't expect me to paint a portrait, you know what I mean, and give me dry paint, you know what I mean? But you're like, oh, you'll figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
what it felt like. I'm over here using spit and sweat, and I'm overworking myself to get this paint to get wet so I can paint the picture that you're telling me that I can paint. That
Exactly.
doesn't make sense.
And you
So,
stay on the hamster wheel.
yeah, and that's why I said I don't want to ever invalidate how you feel because you feel probably how a bunch of other people feel. A lot of people who are in denial of how they feel. There's so many people I've talked to that I've, just tried to engage to see if they can come onto the show, and they are still making excuses for the company that they're at. Like taking up for them, it's almost literally like having an abusive partner. And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, I wasn't really writing business. So they took my team. And so, I'm just trying to, I said, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You're not writing business. You have debt rolling up to you because of your agency, but they're taking a profitable team from underneath you that could pay off that debt. Well, yeah, I'm like, is that written in a contract? Or were you supposed to give up your team? No, I'm not understanding how you're allowing them to treat you this way and you're still not seeing it. How are you
They don't
not
feel
seeing
like
it? We're saying it out loud.
they don't feel like they have the power. And
Yeah.
that's something else you need to be aware of. You do have the power to negotiate. You also do have the power to say no. However, it's based on what you signed in the beginning. If in the beginning you didn't negotiate to be able to have that power and you signed something saying you would give it away, now you're stuck. And so now, like you said, you're losing a profitable team that you built
Yeah.
for someone else to profit from while you go out and struggle to build another team or do whatever to pay down his debt. I knew a guy, he actually had a company, a final expense company. He had $1 million company and went bankrupt. So much that the company over him that he fell under literally had to buy up all of his debt because he couldn't get out of it. He could not get out of it. $1 million company gone because of the debt roll up. And so I listened to this and I'm talking to my partner at the time because my partner is the one who talked me to get back into insurance after the first time. And we had a great business model that sounded like it could work and whatnot. And and as I'm thinking it through, and I'm like, Lord, it's a roll of the dice, right?
Yeah.
And so we get into it, and everything starts off working smoothly. But then I started hearing this thing. Well, I had $1 million company. I went bankrupt. Well, damn. How did you build? And now you're what? No, if I make it to $1 million,
Overnight.
I'm not giving it back. You know. So no, and I'm thinking to myself, like, and the guy who's a great salesman like you, like right off the dome, he could come up with it, but it still wasn't enough,
Yeah.
right? He has a team of people, but it still is not enough, right? And so the only people that I saw in this model getting rich was the insurance company
Yeah.
because they have no skin in the game. I mean, you went out and wrote the policy, right? So you spent your time, your effort, your resources, you're buying leads, which by the way is extremely overpriced most of the time. You're buying these leads and they're doing what? Sitting back waiting for the business to come in. Okay, granted, they have the infrastructure to write the policy, but they had that to begin with anyway
Yeah.
because of the other people before them doing the exact same thing you were doing. So everybody's out hustling and right and whatnot, and they're just collecting the premiums. And then when it's time, you have to pay that money back, and they pay nothing.
I literally, and it makes me mad because it's like you're playing chess in the insurance industry. Everybody's an enemy. You have to basically act as if anybody can happen at any time because that is how that game is played. I'm very lucky that my husband is so patient and he actually took the time to teach me the game of chess because I wanted to learn the mentality of that game and incorporate it into my business model to always be thinking, always be on my toes. And, my first step was just learning how each player moved. We know
Mm-hmm,
how these businesses move. We know how people move. But if I know that I'm going to move accordingly, obviously I won't catch it all. Some things are going to have to get sacrificed in that process. Um,
mm-hmm,
but ultimately, it could be even just where you are that could make you fail because
mm-hmm,
there are insurance companies where, let's say you're LOA and the insurance companies pay them. They have 12-month chargeback periods. So they got all of the money and they're keeping it. So it's your upline, it's the upline's hierarchy that's doing it to you. It's the chargeback
mm-hmm.
periods that do it to you. They don't make you aware of that. And that is something I didn't even put in my questionnaire. Those of you who are listening, I have an interview questionnaire. Email us at admin@agentscorereport.com. These are questions that you should ask before you sign any contract, whether you are an insurance or not, anywhere where you are going to be a 1099 agent. These are the questions that you should be asking to make sure that you are informed and you make the best business decisions possible. But chargeback periods are something people do not talk about. Those could be anywhere from 6 months to 24 months, and sometimes the entirety of the time. I write an annuity on someone, and anything over 24,000 is for a particular company. It's a 2-year chargeback period.
Oh,
Anytime the AP is over 24,000, and I'm writing advanced markets, retirement plans, helping people become their own banks. So I'm playing with big money. Unfortunately, there are agents who can't do what I'm doing. They
yeah.
they want to steal. They Mr. Steal your girl, Mr. Steal your man. So someone rewrote that policy 1 month before I hit the 24 month. You were so greedy that you moved that policy, and I know you didn't put that client in a better place. And I got a full chargeback.
After 24 months.
And that was about a $4,500 chargeback, not including the downline because I split it on another agent. And she's out of this business because where she came from, they played her and took business from her and clients from her. So she hit me with I can't do nothing about that. So I'm expecting that to roll within the next 6 months, her $3,000.
Ooh.
When you have these companies out there telling you to hire, 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 absolutely not. Don't hire anyone until you are so sure about this business yourself, unless they are going to take they are not going to take the fall if your agent gets in here and doesn't like it. You are 100% responsible. They do not make it very clear that this is like getting a car loan with someone. This is like buying a house with somebody. You are collateral on every policy that they write. And if they don't pay it, you will have to pay it. And if you don't, you get on vector. If it does get on vector, you're going to be on vector. And now you can't even get a job nowhere in this industry, depending on who reads vector. And what's crazy is there goes the other twist of the other flip on that coin. It's literally a double-edged sword. Vector is supposed to protect us, right? Because if an agent rolls up debt, we report you. Make sure nobody else knows. That's a calling card. The thing is, depending on how your company is structured with vector, there's two different companies. There's a company that the debt rolls once. So sometimes managers will structure it to where you pop up underneath them. They will take all the repercussion, all the recouping the benefits of the overrides. But if you fall off, it hits the person beneath them and never goes to them. So I've seen agencies where they purposely move teams underneath you for certain carriers and make you feel like, hey man, you're gonna get these overrides, boom, boom, boom. But no, they're protecting themselves.
Yeah.
They're ship shaping their industry, or they're ship shaping their hierarchy to protect themselves. And then there's a different company where the debt keeps rolling, meaning if you don't pay, it rolls to me. And then if I don't pay, because maybe I'm not writing that carrier a lot, it goes to my upline, but I'm not held accountable for what you did. It just keeps rolling. But because it's being paid within the hierarchy, you don't get reported to Vector One. So guess what you get to go do? Keep doing what you've been doing. How does that protect me? How do I protect the people in this industry?
Mm-hmm.
Again, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why agent score report is so important, because we need to protect people from the person that rolled up debt to me,
Yep.
because he did it to someone else prior to coming to me.
And let's not talk about the malicious acts of some companies that will report you, steal business from you, then report you. And now you're in a position where you can't get a job because they reported you due to whatever relationship you had with your upline that was not good.
Exactly.
Um, it's it's just not it honestly it just feels like the Wild West, to put it in the simplest terms. It just really seems like the Wild West. And as you made mention of chess earlier, the only thing that you can't do in chess is you can't make somebody move backwards. And
Mm,
this is exactly what they do. They make you move backwards financially. They make you move backwards in your time, your sweat, your tears. Imagine having to pay back today what you made October 2022.
you. So besides everything we've mentioned, and I know it's quite a lot, and again, this is not to scare people. This is to prepare people. This is his experience, and it does not invalidate anyone having positive experience in this industry. Because, like I said, I'm still in here. I'm happy. I love this business. I just found a place for me. And that's why what I'm doing with this podcast is so important, because I am bringing people who are still in the business, who are doing it, and they're happy and they're in a right place. And I want to make sure you get directly to them and not fall into the traps that we all fell into because we just didn't know. We felt like we didn't have power. We didn't have information. We didn't know where to go ask questions from. This is that place where you can start to do your research and really start to really look at this industry different and have a better foot stepping in. But Antoine, what were some of the biggest challenges or frustrations you faced as an agent that contributed to your career change?
Well, as I stated before, I really like consistent income. Sales is not consistent, but definitely insurance sales is definitely not consistent. And because it was not only inconsistent, but the idea of having to pay back the commissions that I did hustle to make, I just didn't like it. So I chose a career field that would allow me to use my strengths, keep the money that I make, and grow at the same, really the same rate, if not faster. And that's why I chose to go into real estate. And that kind of explains what I said earlier about why I'm still in the sales field. Well, I still don't like sales, and I still don't go out and sell people. I still don't prospect. I don't, because my angle is to build my own real estate portfolio, and being a realtor helps me do that. If I didn't have my real estate license, I would be doing a lot more guesswork versus
Yeah.
actually having the knowledge. So I'm privy to that information. I can still make a commission on my own sales, and I can also make a commission on your sale. And so my sales are more incidental,
Yeah.
accidental in a sense, because I could be out, I could be at a mixer, I could be at an event, I can tell people I'm a real estate investor and this is what I do. And, hey, I always want to do that. Okay, well, I can help you if you like, right?
Yeah.
That's my pitch. That's about as far as my pitch goes. I can help you if you like. And I get to determine the clientele that I want to work.
Yeah.
I work in a small boutique firm. There's no high pressure here to put up numbers because we don't even charge fees. And my broker, of course, she gets an override on what I make, but there's no There's no pressure to go out and say, well, you need to be selling this many houses and doing this amount of production. It's whatever you want your career to look like. And so because I spend majority of my time looking for deals for myself, I use my knowledge to present it to others who may be interested, and let them know, hey, this is out there. If this is what you want to do, I can help you do it. But you have to have everything in place and you have to have the right mindset. You have to be committed. There are a lot of people who say they want to get into it, but I'm not sure. Ooh, well, that's great. Nobody's sure when they first start anything, right? But I probably wouldn't be the agent for you, right? Because I only work with people who are dedicated, who are committed, who really want it, who have a hunger for it, and are serious about moving forward because there is a lot of time that we put into it as salespeople. If you're in sales, I'm sure you know there is a lot of hustle and bustle, right? And then the resources and the time that it take to gain this knowledge and the money you pay for the licenses and the money you pay for the material to learn and the courses, the classes, like I'm not going to waste that on someone who's like, I'm sure, I'm not sure, right? So because I have this approach as an investment realtor, right? Because I have that approach, not only can I pick and choose, but I can qualify my clients. And that allows me to determine, if this is a good use of my time, because that's the one asset we can't buy any more of.
Just feels like you have a little bit more freedom in real estate than you did in insurance. And that could be, again, the lack of knowing how broad insurance is. Because when you get stuck in these IMOs, you're stuck in whatever they want to do. And that's a
Yep.
story I repeatedly hear. If they only sell final expense, that's all you get to sell. And again, that leaves money on the table. And it really leaves you inefficiently helping your client, because if I just help them with one thing, somebody gonna come back and do everybody and go, well,
Right.
let's do a change of agent on that policy since Patrice couldn't do everything. Some
Right.
only do IULs, advanced markets, some only do term, and say everybody else sucks. And we have all this misinformation. It makes you feel lost, which is why I chose to go independent and choose contracts that made me direct to the carrier. So I'm not
Mhm.
dealing with anybody. But if you don't know that, you're out of here.
Yeah.
And just the way everything's structured, you're just like, listen, that's not how it is over here in real estate. No one's going to worry about what you're doing. Don't get me wrong, there might be some places out there, but I know where I'm at. I'm not
Mhm.
doing that lifestyle, and I want to change things, and I can see how much more free you feel. So, transitioning into real estate, which kind of jumps into our next question here. Why did you choose to transition into real estate, and real estate investment particularly, or what appealed to you about this new field?
So when you buy real estate once, it pays you forever. I like that.
I like.
Right? I like that. I only have to buy it once. And guess what? I'm the client, right?
Yeah.
I'm buying. So I don't have to worry about maybe kind of sort of I don't like that paint. No, I'm buying it. So I don't have to worry about that particular part of the sales process. The hardest part for me is convincing the seller to sell it to me under my terms at my price. But aside from that, I buy it once, it pays me forever, and there's nobody to come back and say otherwise, right? Two, the commissions are great. Actually, the commissions I think are better than insurance because you have to write a huge policy in order to make $10,000 on one sale. I have to sell one house. The average house in America sells for about $400,000. That's about $10,000 in commissions, right? So I only need one. And if I buy my own, then whatever I spent to get the house, I get a portion of that back. It's a win-win. It's an asset I can leave to my children, right? It's something that I can roll up into a retirement account if I wanted to, and I can let all of that build up into retirement, or I can take the cash flow today. I'm able to write things off. That's a tax break. It's so many avenues to benefit from real estate versus insurance. Like, why wouldn't I? I'm actually mad I didn't get into it earlier.
Hey, better late than never. That you had to have that experience to really take all that energy and drive you be that driving force to where you're at now. So can you describe the process of making that switch? Did you pursue additional education, certificates, or training?
I did. It's the same as insurance, really, or even getting your Series 7 license. You take courses, you pass the course, pass the test, you get your license. And it's really just that simple to be a realtor. However, and I don't say this with any shade intended, but that's all a lot of people do is they get the real estate license. That does not teach you how to be a good investment realtor, right? And the investment realtor is not an actual term, by the way. I'm just saying I like to focus on investment properties and real estate. A lot of people can show you home. A lot of people can help you pull comps. And by the way, pulling comps is not a one size fits all. It's not an exact science. Different people pull comps differently. You can get a much wider range in a price from one realtor than you can from another. If you were to come to me, my price is going to be very narrow focused because I'm going to find properties that are almost exactly identical to yours in so many ways. And I'm going to narrow that price down to get an accurate picture of what you should be paying or selling for your property, right? Now, if I were to do like most people and I would add a lot of homes, let's say for instance, you have a 3 bedroom and they're adding in 4 bedrooms and they're going 5 miles out instead of only 2 miles out. If yours has a 2 car garage and they're pulling in 3 car garages with a pool, like, and they're not making the adjustments, you know, for the things that are in this other home, then they could be telling you, "Oh yeah, you could sell your house for 550 when it's only really worth 430." Right? And so now you're kind of set up for failure because you go out there thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to be able to sell it for 550," and you're already making plans and you count your money and and you've signed up with this realtor and it sits on the market for a whole year, and or you end up bringing a price down all the way back down to 430 before you sell it, and you're disenchanted and you feel some kind of way. You probably could have sold it sooner and moved forward with your life, but instead you were holding it and maybe possibly holding 2 notes if you had to move urgently, right? Because now you have a home in 2 places. So anybody can go out and get the real estate license. Anybody can take the courses, and that's what I did to get the license. But what I did to be who I am today, what I did to become a real investment realtor, I had to go through a lot more training. I had to learn a lot more. I had to learn about valuing a property, but also valuing a deal. What does a good deal look like? What does a bad deal look like? How to do my projections and my forecasts, right? Because if it's an investment property, you're doing this to make money. Well, how do you know how much money you're going to make? Do you have any idea? Can that realtor tell you anything about how much money you possibly could be making? Well, let me take a step back. Most companies, most brokerages you work for would advise you not to give financial advice to your clients because you can be sued, right? Especially if things go sideways. Well, I don't give financial advice. I give scenarios. Okay. I'll give you a scenario. If in fact the stars align and this is how you buy it under these terms, and the rents are this and the market is that, this is how it could turn out. Now, it's still up to you to make that decision.
Different perspectives take. So my question is, why that part of real estate? I know there's different real estates that you can jump into. So this is this is a new field for you. How did you know to pinpoint that specifically?
Well, for starters, it's kind of a twofold question. I started in that arena because I like investments, and I've always liked investments. Um, I was not very knowledgeable about real estate for quite a long time because I was more focused in stocks. But I realized that with the stock market, there's a couple of variables that you don't have control over, which makes investing or stock trading extremely risky. In real estate, you have more control over the variables. And so, because you have more control over those variables, or they're at least more predictable, I decided to learn real estate and then learn how to use what I had learned trading the stock market and from my merger and acquisition courses and all of the finance books I read. I took everything that I learned over there and I started applying it to what I knew about real estate. And with anything, trial and error, talking to people, talking to other experts, putting together mock models to determine if this thing will work. And then, of course, I also had a job working for the city of Houston and there as a financial analyst as well, working on some 20, $40 million real estate projects. So I kind of got my feet wet there as well. And, like with anything, once you kind of build a foundation,
Yeah.
and you start getting a feel for it, you start practicing. And when you start practicing, you start learning. And you make a mistake here, but the biggest and you make a mistake here, but you succeed over there. The biggest thing is learning how to be adaptable and flexible and still drive forward and not be discouraged and quit. But I chose real estate because it's just more stable. It's a more stable business. If you do it the right way, you'll win. You just have to know what that looks like. And
Yeah.
um, so, so going the extra mile to study and learn is what's important. Or you can get with someone who's actually done it and they can lead and guide you so that you can make it. And eventually you kind of figure it out and you do it on your own.
No, you're absolutely right. I basically took your same approach with real estate, with insurance, and I found more success. But that success is not taught widely, and that's talking to people,
Mm-hmm.
talking to real people. And I very much enjoy using my social media platform in a digestible way where I'm not annoying people. They know I sell insurance. So because I'm do that, I get a lot of warm markets. Some of it comes through unfortunate stories, but it's the fact that I was the only person they knew that sold insurance. Out of anyone they've known out of 10 years, they come directly to me. And that's why I continue to post that way. And it brings me good business. Additionally, when I'm out and about, I go talking to everyone. Everybody's my pal, and then insurance just comes up organically. And again, you already know me, I improv, so I'm already in my play when I walk up to you, and I already set the scene, and then you bounce right into it, and then it looks natural, like you brought it up. I made it look like your idea, like what insurance.
Yes, yes. You are good at that.
So how would you say your background in insurance influenced your approach to real estate or real estate investment?
Well, it definitely helped me determine that I can't work with every client.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a market that I am willing to work with. And it helped me identify what that market is. And that's the reason why I said earlier, you have to be certain, right? So kind of dialing back, you're working with an elderly person. They are uncertain. They are not knowledgeable. They are scared. They're at the later part of their life. They can't afford to lose. So they're very hesitant, and so now you're trying to convince them to do something that works in their best interest. You spend a lot of time and then maybe it gets canceled. Maybe they let someone else cancel it. So if I'm working with someone knowing that I don't want to lose my time, number one, first and foremost. Number two, I don't want to lose my money. Go into real estate and you choose a client that is serious about the business. Now, there's still no guarantees. People can pull out for a number of reasons. I've even advised some people to pull out of the deal. However, I know that if I have a client that's really serious about it, they got the money, they got the credit, they got the income, and they came to me or they met me in whatever way, and we're moving forward and I can see that they're committed to it, I feel more comfortable spending my time with that person. It's not just about the money, it's my time, right? Because I could have spent that time with my children instead of with you. So I need to make sure it's a good use of my time. That's what helped me when I moved from insurance.
No, I'm so glad you said that about your time. That's something I didn't realize until you said it, that the time I was spending now is quality. I'm not wasting my time kikiing with people the way I want to do it because I know what I'm intentionally doing. And I know at the end of that 5 or 6 minutes interaction, it's either going to be something I continue going further with or I keep it pushing. I didn't have to pay, $1,000 batch of leads to get that one client for 5 minutes on
Yeah.
the phone and then pray and hope I can chase him long enough to turn a deal. So, with that being said, what has been the most rewarding aspect of working in real estate so far? Are there any challenges you didn't expect?
So the most rewarding aspect of working in real estate, besides the freedom and the money, is walking into a home that as a child, I it was so far off that I would be able to own. It was a dream to be able to own this home as a
Yeah,
child. I own it, right? This is mine. Like that gratification you get from ownership,
yeah,
right? To walk in and to know that you have accomplished something that maybe others in your family haven't, or to a level that you never thought possible. There's a little bit of gratification in negotiating a deal too, honestly. Um, while sales was not my first choice in life, I do get a kick out of negotiating for some reason. I don't know why. You know, there's a certain amount of gratitude, especially not gratitude, but there's a certain amount of gratification I get from getting things on the terms that I wanted
yeah.
that benefit me. And now I'm moving that much further along in life financially, right? Like I don't know, it kind of just gets my adrenaline going. And one of the biggest things also is the price. Um, I don't know, it's kind of like Monopoly, right? If you ever played Monopoly, you can play the regular Monopoly where you play for $200. Then you can play the electronic Monopoly where you start with 15 million, right? And it's something about those commas that does something to me, you know?
You mean, um, and it's just like it makes you feel like you kept saying this word ownership, and you own things, and it feels like you have control of things. Those were words that you weren't having or experiencing in insurance, because it almost felt like the word in ownership was just dangled in front of us when that should have already been ours. We never owned anything. We didn't own any of the policies. We don't own our clients. We don't own our business or the agents that we bring on. None of it is actually is ours. It's supposed to be at the end of this unobtainable goal. That's impossible if anything could just be taken to you along the way. And there's no
Yep,
cards being drawn either. You draw a card and it says, go back 2 spaces. Literally, someone can just draw your card and take the
yep,
entire thing. You know what I
yep,
mean? Um,
yep.
so knowing how you get to deal with your clients now, how do you handle client relationships in your new field compared to how you manage them in the insurance industry?
Oh, it's a total different ball game. In the insurance industry, you're shucking and jiving, you're doing the dance, like buy for me, because I gotta pay bills, right? Like, you know,
Literally.
I gotta pay my roll up. But in real estate, I'm much more relaxed. I'm much more calm. I can go out and I don't have to push, because of my approach. If I were a regular realtor, trying to get the commission, I think it would be totally different.
Yeah.
And let's be fair. I've set myself up to where financially I also do not have to go out and sell to get a commission every month in order to pay bills. Okay. So let's just start there.
Yeah.
Um, so if I didn't have that, maybe I would be holding a part-time job, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe I have a spouse that would be helping me, but you would have to supplement that income. But at either rate, I'm still able to really take my time and not do the song and dance and pursue clients that really want to work with me. I really want to work with them. And so it's like night and day, and how I deal with my
Wasn't
clients.
muted. Sorry. So, what advice would you give to other insurance agents who might be considering a career change, whether it be in real estate or another field?
First off, learn who you are. That's
Mm,
primary. First, learn who you are, because if you are under the pretense that you can do anything and you're not able to do anything just because we were told as children you can do anything you put your mind to, um, that's when life is gonna suck for you. Like there's no other way to put it.
yeah.
It suck for you. You could be a rock star, you don't know, but you also could be the person that starves and ends up taking some job somewhere and then being miserable and giving up on everything. So My advice would be my advice would be to learn who you are, right? I don't know what that looks like for you. Everyone is different, but learn who you are, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to deal with, what you don't want to deal with, and what success looks like to you as well. Um, Success is different for everyone. So once you establish those boundaries, once you have those boundaries in place, then you can truly assess whether life insurance, real estate, or knitting is perfect for you. Then, after you do that, you go take the classes and the certifications and start putting your time into it.
1000%, 1000%. So looking ahead, what are some goals for real estate and investment career moving forward? Are there any upcoming ventures or projects that you're excited about?
So, my goal is to build a vast portfolio and to help people along the way as I do so. Eventually, I want to have an investment firm where I hire analysts that are also realtors so that every time we buy a property, they can make a commission off of the sale as well as make their salary or commission or just however our salary structure is going to be, wage structure. So that's the ultimate goal. Um, as far as in the immediate future, I'll kind of put everything on hold because the election is coming up.
Mm,
And the election is going to be crucial. And I don't think that people really realize it because you would really have to have a good understanding of economics, the economic cycle, and how policy affects that economic cycle, right? And everybody's voting based on popularity, voting based on what they're hearing that sounds good, right? And I'm not here today to sway you one way or the other, but I just want to break down a few things that are very important. When you're listening to someone and they're talking a good talk and everything sounds good, you need to be able to determine how is this going to affect the economy, thus my position in the economy. My position is different from your position. Case in point, I'm self employed. I have an LLC. Even if I have a job, I still have write offs. I'm still investing. So I'm sensitive to interest rates. I'm sensitive to price fluctuations as well as whatever I would make on my job, right? You may just be totally focused on your job. So that means life looks different for you. So when you make the decision to vote for someone who's going to create inflation, then you ultimately hurt yourself because you're on a fixed income, whereas I'm not, right? So if I have the ability to go out and make an extra $10,000, but you don't, that means when prices go up, you're able to buy less of everything that you need and everything that you want because prices went up because you voted for someone who talked tough, but in actuality, they hurt you in the long run versus someone who is creating a de-inflationary environment where your dollars will go further. Okay, so knowing how the economy is going to be affected by who you vote for is extremely important and how that's going to affect you within that economy. So, with that being said, I put everything on hold because as I buy, as I said earlier, I'm sensitive to price, I'm sensitive to interest rates. And with one candidate, interest rates are going to go up for sure. They've already said what they're going to do. And I do believe them. They're going to do these things. And that's going to drive the price up. There's another candidate who's going to push interest rates down. Okay. And when interest rates start to go down, that works on my behalf. So it's kind of one of these things, right? Now I can make money in either market, but it's just going to be harder to do. and there's going to be different timing mechanisms, right? I won't go too much into it, but I'll say this much. Well, I'm going to give you an example. I was trying to stay away from it. I'm going to give you an example. So let's say if Trump wins and he continues to keep the tariffs in place and he raises those tariffs on more goods, and he brings all of the jobs back home from overseas, so we're not paying for cheap goods anymore because we're paying Americans more money, right? Well, yay for the people who got the jobs. God bless you. However, what you need to understand is that a tariff is an extra cost to the manufacturer, to the person buying it, okay? Which means it's going to get passed on to you as the retailer who's ultimately the end user. All of the jobs coming back over, when they pay you higher wages, when McDonald's goes from $7 to $15, when manufacturing of silicon chips come back to the United States, and now you no longer paying $1,200 for a Samsung phone, you're paying $2,200 for a Samsung phone because they have to pay the worker $35 an hour plus overtime. Guess what? Prices go up. That also affects real estate. All of that still affects real estate. It affects our buying power. It affects how much we can pay for a home. And if we can't pay as much for a home because prices of other things have gone up, including the cost to build the home, that means the prices are going to drop. Oh, but wait, that sounds like a good deal, right? I mean, I want to pay $300,000 for a $400,000 home. But does it really work if interest rates go back up to double digits?
You're right back in the same spot. Nothing's
Yeah.
actually changed.
But guess what? In real estate, you marry the price, you date the rate.
Yeah.
Okay. So you don't want to be in an environment where interest rates are continuously going up. You want them to eventually come down. So while yes, you may buy that home at 300,000 that was initially worth 400, that's great. You married the price. Unfortunately, you have to marry the rate too because you're in an environment where rates are constantly going up. You don't want to refinance into a higher interest rate. You're not going to make as much money, if any at all. So then there's the other client. I mean, there's the other candidate who is going to tax the wealthy, the people who have yachts, the people who have 12 mansions, the people who are on vacation when you're working. They're going to tax them, okay, to pay the $25,000 for homeowners to get a home, right? Well, granted, that creates demand that pushes prices up as well too, but they still have to qualify. So it's not going to push it up as much as people might want to think. And all of the extra cash that we're going to need in order to do the things that Kamala Harris wants to do is coming from the wealthy instead of the taxpayers.
I think
So
we could
we're not
all
going
use
to.
a class on government economics again because we seem
Ex-
to not know where the money comes from. And so I don't argue with
exactly.
a lot of people. As soon as they open their mouth and I hear the rhetoric, and I'm just like, it sounds like you need to go to school. It sounds like you need to open up a book and learn how things work. Because, like everything, we need to find the problem. And in order to find the problem, you typically go find the source of
Yeah.
said problem. So, with that being said, how do you see the future of real estate, especially in terms of investment opportunities?
But right now it's uncertain. Interest rates were beginning to drop. Finally, they were beginning to drop, but it's still uncertain because of this election. After the election, it'll be easier to determine the direction that real estate is going to go in. If the price is going to go up, down, stay the same, whatever. So I'm kind of on hold because of that. But what I will say is this: whether it's today or 10 years from now, real estate does tend to go up. So the overall future of real estate is still bright, right? People still need a place to live. People are still having babies, right? And so as long as they're still having babies and people still need a place to stay, you can't put it on the internet. AI is not going to take that particular asset away. Real estate is always going to continue to go up, even when it dips. It's still going to go up. So I'm still in the business of real estate. I still plan on buying more. It's just a matter of the timing as to when I buy it and what I buy it for.
And I mean, like you said, it's not so much the game has gotten harder. You just got to change your formula. Your math
Mhm.
is not the math that you have now is just not going to work. You now have to present something different to your clients. Like, okay, now that the game has changed because of X candidate or X candidate and these laws are passing, this is what you're looking at. You know, we've got to either buy now or stand still or wait till tomorrow. You know, that's
Right.
what you're going to be looking at. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently in your career, whether it's insurance or real estate?
What I would have done differently in insurance, honestly, I just wouldn't have done insurance. That's just what it is. I just wouldn't have done insurance. Real estate, I would have gotten started sooner. That's what I would have done. I would have gotten started sooner. I would have learned more about it. And what I probably would have done had I gotten started before 2008, before the crisis, um, I probably would have focused a lot more on sales then. I would have taken all of that young energy, that I can do spirit, and I would have put it into real estate then. And I probably would have sold more properties. Again, not because I would have been a different person. I think that my experience in sales would have been different because people always want a home. Most people want a home. And most people enjoy the idea of ownership. Most people like the autonomy space. So I think I would have done better, and I probably would be a lot further along.
So then with that being said, what would you tell your younger self, knowing what you know now?
Stop. Don't do insurance. Go to real estate. Take that offer that someone gave you a long time ago to send you to real estate school, learn it and master it and become great. That's what I would have done.
To the end of our story here, but it doesn't mean I won't bring you back again to share some more stuff. You know, but do you have any resources or books or tools that you would like to share with the audience to help them along their journey?
So what I tell people, because a lot of people have asked me to teach them how to invest, and what I tell people is start with your For Dummies books, and that's not a pun. That's a real book, actually. For Dummies, Real Estate for Dummies, Investing for Dummies. Start with those books. Why? Because they break them down to simplest form, and it'll give you a starting, right? One that you can understand and you won't be intimidated by the big words because they break it down so well. And then build from there, cross reference the things you don't know, cross reference the concepts, and then get into your more advanced books. That's where I would start. I wouldn't start with these Google courses. Sorry. And someone has a lot of people have asked me to do those courses, and I just don't put any effort into them. Not because you won't get quality education from me, but it's because, in all honesty, you're never gonna learn everything you need to learn in a guru course for $200, 300, or $1,000. Like you're just not, because from a business standpoint, it's only so much time that I'm going to be willing to spend to teach you. And everything that I'm going to give you is actually in a book for $39.95. And so instead of trying to charge you $1,000 to go get a book, to learn something, you could go get a book that's about this thick. Take your time and read it. If you really want to learn it, you'll read the book. If reading the book doesn't sound like something you want to do, guess what? You shouldn't be doing it to begin with. Forget taking the course.
1,000%. Business is just because anyone can do it doesn't mean everyone should do it. Like, because I'm
Exactly.
so sick of unqualified people coming into this industry. It's not for you, and it's okay to admit that to yourself. It's not.
Exactly.
So, how can our listeners get in contact with you if they want to learn more or join your team?
Sure. If you would like to know more about what I do, if you'd like to get into what I do, or if you would just like to ask questions, I'm open. Please give me a call at 832-808-2783. Again, that's 832-808-2783. Or you can email me at lee@antoinelee.com. That's Lee at ANTOINELEE.com. You can also check me out on my website at antoinelee.com as well. I'm willing to answer whatever questions you may have, give you guidance into what direction you may or may not want to go. I even give you some ideas about maybe a deal that you're possibly working on. I have no problems with that. But if you would really like to buy real estate and you want to buy investment property, definitely reach out to me.
Thank you so much, Antoine, for being on the show and sharing your experience. It is so valuable for people that may be in your same position or facing what you're going through, and they just need to make tweaks and adjustments to stay in this business or tweaks and adjustments to get out. So, with that being said, thanks for showing up to the Great Reset podcast for Insurance Piece Accountability. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.